DIY scrim or softbox. When you're using a softbox, what it does is it takes that bare bulb of light, it hits a diffusion material, it makes the light source larger and softer. And so that is going to help you create more flattering light on your subject. But let's say that you want a really big softbox. Maybe you want to have a broader spread of light, or you want that softbox to light full length, or maybe you actually want to put it behind the subject so that it's a big white wall of light that wraps around. Really big softboxes can be pretty difficult to handle, especially in a small space. Plus, they can be pretty expensive. So what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to make your own, a DIY version that costs less than $20. And so this is a good opportunity to also talk about scrims. Basically what scrims are is they're big frames, and then they have a piece of diffusion material in that frame. And then you move the light behind it and around it to change the light, but it makes it softer. A couple things about scrims. If you bring the light really, really close to the scrim, it keeps it focused, and it's not as soft because it only lights a small area of that scrim. But if you pull it back, it spreads the light out, it lights more area of your scene, and because it filled up more of the scrim, it makes it softer. The difference between a softbox and a scrim is that softbox, it's got the black sides to it, right? It's enclosed, which means it gives you more control over the spread of light. When you have a scrim or something like I have set up here, what happens is the light, it kind of just spreads everywhere. It's really hard to control and feather the light. So what we're going to do is we're going to make something that's kind of scrim, kind of softbox, but for really cheap. And what I'm using in this example is a very inexpensive curtain shear. So like what you hang up in front of your windows to cut the light a little bit. And I got 2 packs of these shears, so 4 shears for about $14. I got them off of Amazon, so really inexpensive. Because if you look at them, what it really is it's meant to cut and soften the light. It's somewhat transparent. It's white, so it won't create a color cast. You could use this, or you could use a bed sheet, or you could use a shower curtain. Basically anything that lets some light through and doesn't create a color cast. Now what I did, the reason I bought 2 is these actually are quite thin, so they don't cut that much light. And so I layered them up. And so what that'll do is it'll make it so there isn't quite as much of a hot spot. So light's gonna spread out and it's not going to cut through the shears as much. So I layered up a couple of them. Now what I actually have is I've got a stand, and then I have an arm over top. But if you don't have an arm, you don't need to worry about it at all. What you could do is you could, if you had low ceilings, tape it to the ceiling if you wanted to. Or you could use a stand with a painter's pole and then tape this or clip this to the painter's pole. So the idea is you get the translucent surface and you put it next to your subject, layer it up if it's too thin. All right, so let me break down what I've got here. And so what this is going to do is a small head is going to hit the diffusion material. It's going to spread out. It's going to create softer light because it makes it larger, and it's diffused, which makes it softer and less contrasty. Now, a couple things that you want to think about is if I bring this in really close. So actually, the light source hitting my subject is quite small. But if I want the light really soft, I need to have it be bigger. I need to have it fill this scrim or this softbox more. So what I would need to do is pull the light back. And what this does is, think of it like a bucket of water. If I take the bucket of water really close, the light stays focused. If I can back it up, the light or the water has time to spread out. So the reason that this is somewhat difficult or somewhat counterintuitive is I once learned, if you want a light to be bigger and softer, you bring it close. Totally true, except for scrims are a little bit different, because in order to use the size of the scrim, you have to back the light up so the light can fill the scrim, therefore making it larger. So just, you have to think of it that way. If you want something to be bigger, bring it closer, but in a scrim or with diffusion material, making your own softbox, you back the light up so it covers a larger surface area. All right, so this should be good. I also want to keep in mind the height of the light. If I put the light down here, it's going to be bottom lit. So I want it to be even or above eye level. So let me change my angle just a tiny bit. So it's a tiny bit higher. Okay, good. All right, so we're going to start with that and see how it looks. So if you look at this, look at the transition next to the nose, underneath the chin, underneath the jaw. The transition from shadow to highlight, it's really gradual, it's really soft. So I've given myself a softbox that creates beautiful, flattering light. And because it's head to toe, I can also stand her up and I can get a full body shot. And so it works like a large softbox. So this is only one way to use this DIY softbox, but I want to show you one other more creative way. So I'm actually going to take this whole set and I'm going to put it on the other side of her. And I'm going to use this to create a high key scene that's more emphasized on her silhouette and on her profile. So I'm going to move that around now. All right. And I'm going to bring the diffusion material right up behind her. Okay. And I'm going to move this light source around to the back. And now I'm going to light the scrim or the softbox from the back. Same thing. All right, and let's make sure I have you nice and centered. All right, so I'm going to give myself a test shot of this. And I probably don't want to be able to see the head of the light. You can actually see it in the top. Because what that means is when I can see that bare bulb, it's probably going to give me a hot spot. Hot spots give me lens flare. So I'm actually going to boom it so that it's kind of hidden behind her back. So I can lower my stand or I can change the angle of the boom arm. Both of them are going to choose something similar. All right, so let me test this out. Okay, let me give this a quick test. All right, so what you see that I have in this shot is I have a pure white background. It's completely white, beautiful and glowing. You see it starts to bounce and wrap around her a little bit. If you have a second light, this is a great way to give you a pure white high key shot because you can add a second light in the front like a beauty dish or like a softbox. And so you get the pure white behind her, a little bit of wrap around, and then the light source in the front. But in this instance, I want to show you how to use this as just one light source, one tool by itself. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to have you turn to the side and pull your hair back, if you will. And so when she turns to the side, what it's going to do is going to create beautiful silhouette. All right. And can you lean your chest forward just a bit? I'm blocking the light that's visible behind her. I'm blocking it with her body so I don't have lens flare or don't have much lens flare. Perfect, beautiful. So, I mean, it's gorgeous. I have a nice light that actually wraps around her face a little bit, giving me a sliver of light on her eye. The light wraps around her hair, across her chest, and so it's giving me an emphasis on her profile and her shape. If you look, there's actually a little bit of light filling in on her face, and the reason is that's not a softbox, it's a scrim, meaning it's just that diffusion material. So what happens is that light, it's kicking everywhere. And so it bounces off the walls on the left and right. It bounces a little bit off the floor. And so if you look, that's why it's not a pure black silhouette. If I just want to have a silhouette of her, then I need to use negative fill. I need to use a black V flat or black fabric or something on either side. Or if you want, you can just drag the contrast in post-processing, darken down the shadows, and that'll help you achieve your silhouette a little bit more. So something like this is what I keep in mind. I can do a full length shot. And so all of a sudden now, if you want a pure white background that gives you a little bit of wrap around your subject, but you don't want to light a white background and you don't want to have a giant softbox, this is a perfect solution. So I'm actually gonna have you stand up for a second. Great. And I'm just gonna back up just a tiny bit, and I will have you turn your head to profile again. Great. So if you look at the light that I'm able to achieve, the light that wraps around her, creates nice light on her face, and it's a white background head to toe. To do that, if you wanted to do it another way, you'd have to have a white background, light it with multiple lights, and try to get it nice and even, and this does it for me. If you look at your camera, it'll actually show you that the background is overexposed. Pure white with no detail. So if you have your highlights warnings on, it's going to blink, but that's totally fine. I want it to be overexposed and be pure white. So I can do this, let's say for a maternity shot or for a boudoir shot that's all about silhouette and all about curve. Or if I want it more as a full length or mid-length white portrait, at this point I could add another light into the equation. And so I could give myself that pure white background without having a whole lot of complication and multiple additional strobes.